a work of art. Now that's a cone planter that is made out of stucco mesh or hardware cloth. It's very easy to source at your hardware store or fencing place. And basically it comes in rolls 2 feet wide, 3 feet wide, or 4 feet wide. And it looks just like this. It's like a hard wire that's used to apply stucco on the exterior of buildings. And I want to suggest that you use a 1/2 inch weave. So that means that these little squares are 1/2 inch big. If you go any bigger than 1/2 inch, you're going to find over time that your moss and your dirt is going to wash right through. So keep it small, 1/2 inch. Now, before I go on to the next step, I'm going to get Barb to work on this little piece over here. And I would like you just to finish basting the back of this with this wire. Awesome. Okay, first step is to make your template. Now the reason that you want to make a template is because perhaps you want to make more than one, so you want them to be the same size, or you want to share this with a friend so they can make it too. So that cone right there is 24 inches. So what I did was I started with a square piece of paper, 24 by 24. So this was an actual square when I started, and then I just rounded this corner. Now if you don't have a compass big enough, you can make a super duper high-tech piece of equipment like I did, which is a piece of string that's 24 inches long with a nail on one end and pencil on the other, and you just put the nail on the tip and with your pencil draw your radius. You can make this any size you want. And I don't have a patent on this, so anybody can whip one up. All right, after you've finished your template, what you want to do is get rid of this little corner right here. And the reason that you want to get rid of that is because when you're forming the point down at the bottom, you're going to have a lot of excess material. So if you remove a little bit of it, you're going to have a nice point to it. So after you've transferred this onto your hardware mesh, and you want to do that going with the grain so that your straight lines are straight on the hardware mesh as well. So you have nice clean lines, because this stuff hurts when you're working with it. You have to wear gloves and long sleeves, because if you don't, your fingers are going to be ripped apart and there's going to be chunks of skin missing from your arms. Okay, so you've got this rounded corner now, which is horrible because it's really sharp and pointy. So first thing you do is you grab your needle nose pliers, fold it back 1/2 inch all the way across. And after that, what you want to do is throw it down on a concrete floor or something nice and hard and whack it with your hammer. So that seam becomes really nice and flat, and then this is a very manageable curve that's not going to hurt anybody. After that, you're going to throw it down on your table or on your floor, and you're just going to start rocking it back and forth, rocking it, until all of a sudden it takes on this shape right here. And it will, because this stuff retains, it's got a memory and it retains its shape. So with a few rockings, you're going to get to this point. So what I want you to do after that is overlap it by one of these little squares, which is 1/2 inch. So you overlap it by one of those guys, and then you're going to take like one of these binder clips or a clothespin or anything that's going to hold this together at the top. So you put that on there, and it's going to keep its shape while you're sewing it. Now to sew it, you're going to use this stuff right here, which is 24 gauge wire. And I love this stuff because it's really, really flexible and easy to work with. So you could even curl the tip if you want, so that as you're sewing it, it comes out a little bit easier. Also, if you're wearing gloves while you're sewing, you can really reef on that wire and pull it nice and tight so that your seam is really tight. All right, you're going to start at the bottom. You're going to whip stitch it a few times, and then you're just going to baste all the way up the back like Barb did, and then you're going to secure it at the top. That's all there is to it. And because it's overlapped that 1/2 inch, it's really, really strong, right? This is pretty strong. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next step. You're going to get some more twigs from your garden or wherever you're foraging. Only these guys are going to be tiny, tiny, tiny. They're only about 1/4 inch in diameter. Once again, you want it freshly harvested so you can bend them, or you're going to soak them in your pail or your tub or wherever. And you're going to stagger these guys so that you don't have all the thick ends at one point, because it's going to be really, really bulky on one end. And this is going to be how we hide the top of this basket. So I'm going to hold this like this. Barb's going to take her cable tie and just attach it on here just like that. And you're going to go all the way around as often as you need to. There's no exact science to it until all of this bundle is nice and secure on the top of your planter. Alrighty. I'm going to leave this with you to finish off, and I'm going to move on to the next step, which is applying the moss. Now, I like to use sphagnum moss, and the reason that I use sphagnum moss is because it holds up to 20 times its weight in water, which is perfect for a hanging basket because on those hot, hot days, you're not watering it all the time. Now, sphagnum comes in a block like this, which is basically got all the moisture sucked out of it, so it becomes this tiny little cube. But if you add water to it, it poofs up like crazy, and it becomes this. This is the exact same thing, it's only got the water in it already. Now, sphagnum comes in this color, and some people love the natural color, and I don't have a problem with it either, but I wanted mine to look really green and lush and pretty. So what I did was I took an ordinary cookie tray, and I filled it with 1 part green food coloring and 2 parts water. I laid it in my cookie sheet, and then I tossed all my moss in there. I turned it around a few times. Oh, and I have to caution you, and this I learned from experience, wear rubber gloves, because you will have a green thumb and fingers and hands for a long, long time if you don't. So wear your little rubber gloves. Soak this stuff in your cookie tin for an hour. Flip it over, make sure all of it's nice and green, take it out of there, wring it as best as you can, and save all that food coloring that's in your cookie sheet. Set it aside to dry, but not bone dry. You want it a little bit damp. If it's totally dry, it's not going to stick to the inside of your cone planter as you're building up the walls. So you're going to build it up, backfill it with soil, and you want that moss to stay on the outside edge. So all the stuff that's left over in your cookie tray, you're going to save, and you're going to pour it into one of these little squirty bottles. And then you're going to put it away and forget about it until you notice during the summer that the sun is bleaching your moss. And that will happen. It'll go back to that browny color. And if you want to keep it green like that, you just give it some squirts from this dye that you had saved. When you do that, in order not to get the building or the pillar or whatever is behind your planter all green, just take it off the hook, stand in the middle of your yard on the grass, and give it a few squirts. And whatever falls off just lands in the grass, and everybody's happy with it. The only thing I want to caution you about is maybe the first 2 or 3 waterings from the basket, the stuff that comes out is going to be a little on the green side. So if you're worried about staining your deck or the sidewalk or whatever is under it, maybe just stick a pail under there for the first 2 or 3 waterings. So the next step is you put the moss into your planter. Now I've got some here that I've dyed just to show you what it looks like after it's all done, and it's fairly moist. So the first step would be to stick a whole bunch down in the tip, and you're going to do about 6 inches in the bottom. And to get it nicely into the tip, you can use a chopstick or a pencil or whatever you have handy, shove it down into the tip, and then start building the walls, at least 1 inch thick. If you go any thinner than 1 inch, you'll find that your soil's going to wash out. So 1 inch thick, you build up a little bit of the moss, you backfill it with soil. You add a little more moss and you backfill it with soil. And by doing it that way, you keep your moss all along the outside edge, which is where you want it. As you're putting your potting soil in, don't go all the way to the top because you want to save some room for all your bedding plants. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the groovy little hangers that this hangs off of. And I'm going to give this to you and the needle nose pliers. Yes. And we're going to make some curlicues. Now basically what we started with is an ordinary hanger, just like this. I took off the neck and I straightened it. Now when you're choosing a hanger to make this for your basket, you want one of these dark colored ones, not the white ones, because they're not nearly as strong as this. And you want something with a lot of strength. So you open this up, you make it all nice and straight just like this, and then you do what Barb's doing exactly with the needle nose. Wow, that's fantastic. Have you done this before? No, that's really, really good. Awesome. I don't want to say anything, but some people in the past made some pretty scary looking ones. Oh, there you go. There you go. All right, so you make 3 of these with the little curlicue thing on the end. And what you do is you feed it underneath the twigs that you put on the top of your basket. And what it does is it hugs them right underneath, just like that. And it offers a lot of support. Because I've had these planted up and watered up, and they're just perfect. So there is a shot of it going in. And basically what you do at the top is you just fold it over once, and you attach an S-hook, or one of those fancy hooks. I don't know what they're called. They got a little lock on it and all that kind of stuff. And that's all there is to it. Now, if you don't want to hang this off a bracket, you can just put a big S-hook on the back and hang it on a wall. And I've seen this done on either side of a front doorway, and they kind of look like sconces. It looks really, really cool. So that's all there is to that project, the work of heart. And I've got a shot of what it looks like in my yard. I've got them hanging in front of the pillars. The plantings that you put in there, you want upright, because there's no point in making this beautiful cone planter if you're going to hide it with all the plantings with trailing plants. So make sure whatever you put in there is upright. Awesome. Well, I want to thank Barb so much for all your help. That was lovely. The apron's yours, and the magazines are yours. And I would like a huge hand for my buddy Barb. Awesome. I brought a couple more shots that I want to share with you. This is my workshop at home. I converted our attached garage into my little haven where I hang out with all my tools. I write a column for the Edmontonians magazine, and I have for the last 5 years. The column is devoted to lifestyle, DIY, entertaining, gardening, all that kind of stuff. And this is where I test all my recipes and make sure that the projects work out before I pass them on to you. I have a very cool action shot of me. Notice that when I'm using power tools, I have eye protection on, and I encourage everybody to do the same, because you just never know when things go flying off in all directions. This is actually the finishing touches that I'm putting on a potting bench that I made from an old bathroom vanity. And basically all I did was I took the sink out and I replaced it with this stuff, this stucco mesh, so that I have an area to do all my potting. And inside the doors, I've got just a garbage can where everything can fall into, so I can clean it out every now and then. Now this is my new baby. This is my very first book that I've published, or that I've written, and the good people at Holes Publishing published it for me. These are the same ones that did all of Lois and Jim's books, and it just came out about 3 weeks ago. There's 15 do-it-yourself projects in there, and trust me, absolutely anyone can do them. I like to repurpose, recycle, reuse as much as possible, so that really is easy on our pocketbooks, because these are kind of trying times, and we do want to make sure that we're not spending our money frivolously. So a lot of these projects do recycle and repurpose. Thank you.